gentlemen, what is up, and welcome back to the Rufus Rundown. It's your boy Rufus. We are back at it, finally. I feel like it's been forever since I talked to you guys, since I got a podcast in. And mostly just because it's been an incredibly busy summer for me. I've been working a ton. And also up here in my office space, my closet, it's hot as balls. There's no AC up here. It gets really, really warm up here in the summer. So, my computer doesn't really like the heat that much. Neither do I personally. So I'm putting myself at heat exhaustion risk. And my computer at risk of blowing up for you guys. So I'm putting at risk for you guys. I like you guys that much that at this point I said, screw it. I'm putting my cards on the table. We're all in. We're putting a $2,000 computer on the line there with all my equipment here. See if it can survive the heat for this podcast. Let's take some time off. Let it cool down. And we can edit it, post it. Anyway, so let's get right into it. The Red Sox last night lose by a score of 9-6 to the Yankees. A little bit of it. I mean, they had a chance to sweep. They had a chance to sweep, and it's a disappointing result, mostly because you have Chris Sale on the mound, and Chris Sale's really underwhelmed you this year. So, I mean, Chris Sale goes 5 1/3. Giving up 6 runs and 5 hits, walking 3 while striking out 7. And he just has not... I think he lacks command in his fastball. He likes to throw that curveball. He has lacked any type of command in his pitches. And I think really the spitting image of like what his season's been like. When he gave up the home run to Romine, he walks the 8-hitter in Cameron Maben, and then he grooves a fastball right down the dick, right down the middle, to Austin Romine, who hits it 115 miles per hour out to left center over the monster. An absolute, cockshot by Austin Romine. And that's just been how the season's been for Sale. And even when the Sox got back into it, to make it, grab the 2 runs, the Benny home run, there out of your ace, what you need is for Sale to go back out there, get a quick 1-2-3. Not take 30, 35 pitches, and that's exactly what he did. He doesn't make it out of the 6th. He gives up the two more runs to make it 6-2 New York. And it's not what you want out of your ace. You expect, if in any game where you score, I know they have 6 runs while Sale was on the mound, but in any game where you score 6 runs with Chris Sale on the mound, you should be in that game. And at no point did I think the Sox even had a chance at winning that baseball game. It's so difficult for me to understand where it's going. Like I said, I think it's command. I think it's a command issue and a control issue with Chris Sale. The only pitch he can get over the plate right now is a fastball right down the middle. Listen, I don't care how good your stuff is. It doesn't matter. Those MLB hitters are gonna smoke that. Whether it's the 9-hitter or it's Aaron Judge, it's getting crushed. And so what it means for the Red Sox is, I know you took 3 or 4 from the Yankees, top team in your division. Most people have been seen as one of the top 3 teams in baseball all season long, and that's not wrong. And they scored an incredible amount of runs, and really showed up right before the deadline. But here's the problem, Sox fans. You're sitting at 59-48, and you're 1 game back in the wild card race. Now, you're behind Cleveland, who you're not sure if they're selling, what they're doing at the deadline. This brought 1 reliever in. You got Trevor Bauer hawking the ball over the center field fence from the pitcher's mound, which, I'll get to that later. That's something on its own. But, so, you're not sure what the Indians are doing. Oakland is above you right now, and Oakland being 37-30 against teams that are 500 and above. The Sox in the hand are 23-29 against teams that are 500 and above. Oakland's there. Tampa Bay, obviously above you in the division and above you in the wild card. They're a half game in front of you, and you have 3 big games at home coming up against Tampa Bay. And you need to sweep these. You need to at least take 2 or 3, but you need to sweep. Here's the truth, Sox fans. I like this team, and for most of the series, the way we were putting up runs, to me, it started clicking in my head there's always a special moment throughout a season for a special team that goes on to do something great. Like last year with the Red Sox, a 17-2 start, and just everything was special all the way through. So many moments and so much dominance, the 108 wins. incredible. Like you have that feeling. I haven't had that feeling with this Red Sox team this year. This series started to kind of click with me. It started to kind of vibe with me a little bit that this might be the run that the Sox go on to really make something happen. But here's the problem with that. The Red Sox have to play .650 baseball. Yes, they have to win 65% of the 55 remaining baseball games to even have a shot at making the playoffs. Playing .650 baseball puts you at 90, 91 wins. And that you're lucky to make the playoffs at that point with the way the wild card race is going. I mean, it puts you right in the hunt, but you need at least to give yourself a chance at just playing a play-in game. Just to playing the wild card playoff game alone. You have to play .650 baseball the rest of the way, and you're 23-29 against teams that are 500 or better. And you still have 7 consecutive division games coming up against the Rays, or a half game in front of you, like I said, in the wild card, and the Yankees are 8.5 up on you in the division. And you have to play 4 in New York, and including a doubleheader. And you got to deal with that short portion right, which, not for nothing, you would have lost like 15-6 if you were playing in Yankee Stadium with some of the balls that are hit out to right field, especially with that play that Jackie Bradley made at right center. You would have been absolutely smoked. This game would have been over in the second inning, which most people are content with now because we won 3 or 4 from the Yankees. I think it's unacceptable. If it was any other pitcher, that's one thing. Cashner goes out there and tosses some, shitty start out there. That's one thing. But Cashner showed up in this series. That's your ace on the mound, Chris Sale, a guy that you need to be able to rely on all the way through, especially when you're going to be playing in a wild card playoff game. Who's your starting pitcher in a one-game playoff to get in right now? David Price, who's been pretty much consistent all year long. Struggled in that last start where you needed the big start of him when you lost series to Toronto. To Baltimore, I'm sorry. Sale, who you're paying $145 million over the next 5 years, who would struggle to be a 5-starter for most teams right now. Or you have Erod, who's... You know what you're getting out of Erod. You can get 6-7 innings, and for whatever reason, the Red Sox hit the shit out of the ball for him when he's on the mound. So I think if you're going to play in a wild card playoff right now, Eduardo Rodriguez is your starter, which just, to me, that scares the shit out of me personally. I'm not sure about anybody else. But that's incredibly scary on its own. Now, don't get me wrong. The Red Sox are a dangerous team if they get into the dance. And you just get into the dance. That's one thing. And people keep saying that, and I agreed for a little bit, but here's the thing. When you got to play .650 baseball the rest of the way, you can't lose more than 2 games in a row. 2 games in a row might even do it for you. You cannot lose another series the rest of the way. You lose 2 or 3 to the Rays right now, it's over. 3 or 4 from the Yankees, even splitting this series with the Yankees, it's over. You need to win every series the rest of the way. And you have another, and the week after, you have the 3-game road set against Cleveland, who's ahead of you in the wild card right now. Given what they did with Bauer and stuff, like I said, they might not be able to trade Bauer now because he threw the ball a full 400 feet over the center field fence, which is that on its own. I mean, a lot of people have seen Trevor Bauer as like the freakazoid. I know Mike Francesa's like, I don't want that kind of personality, and he is kind of a weird dude. In that whole book, The MVP Machine, and everything. Listen, he's got some gears turning up in there that not everybody has, and going in different directions that not everybody's going. I get that, but he's got a hell of an arm. Now, for me, what happens right there if he blows out a UCL? If he needs Tommy John, they're trying to trade him, and he blows out a UCL in his arm. All right, buddy, you got to sit down for 14 months because you got pissed off and fired the ball over the center field fence. That's a mess. That's a mess on its own. That's an absolute mess on its own. But that's who you have in front of you right now. And if they don't trade him, he's still an incredible arm, and he will show up and pitch his ass off the rest of the way. That Indians team is a team you have to deal with. The Rangers are around there who've kind of fallen off. The A's are there to stay. The A's are going to go and make the playoffs. I thought they had a shot at winning the division early in the year. The Astros have continued to play their ass off. So it's going to be between you, Oakland, Tampa, and Cleveland. And you have 6 games coming up against Cleveland and Tampa. 3 of them on the road against Cleveland. You got to take these ones at home against Tampa, who have bought at the deadline. You can't. The Red Sox can't buy at the deadline because Dombrowski's already depleted the entire farm system. They brought in Cashner for basically nothing, who really hasn't shown you much except for that last start against New York, which the Red Sox had to put up an incredible amount of runs. Anybody can pitch for that. I can go out there and throw for a little bit. I feel pretty confident when I'm getting like 10 to 12 runs a game. So the Red Sox cannot buy that. I'm not saying sell. I'm not selling my stock in the Red Sox. I'm just saying you have to play .650 baseball the rest of the way through. And even just to make it into a wild card playoff. That's a lot of high leverage baseball. That's a lot of guys that are still going to have to play through little nicks and injuries that you wouldn't have had to last year, where you kind of take your foot off the pedal a little bit. Even though the Yankees finished with 100 wins, you still finished 8 games above them, winning the 108 games. Playing .667 baseball the whole year. Don't get me wrong, you have the talent to play .650 baseball right now, but the Red Sox at this point have not shown me any consistency all year long. For every step forward they take 2 steps back. You can't take even a single step back now. You've put yourself in the position, especially with that terrible start early in the season out in the West Coast. You've put yourself in a position now where you can't fuck up anymore. You can't take any steps back. Everything has to be forward. You have to take every series from here on out. It's the only chance you have. And even just having a shot to make it in. Then you have to play a 1-game playoff to get in. Ooh, I don't know who's pitching that game for you. And then on top of that, you have to go now play the divisional series against most likely the Yankees, the Astros, and an ALCS against probably either the Yankees, the Astros, and then a World Series probably against the Dodgers again. There's still a lot of baseball on top of playing .650 baseball with all these high leverage situations with not a single reliable bullpen arm. Maybe Brandon Workman, maybe. Not a single reliable bullpen arm right now. Stephen Wright, Matt Barnes, Brazier's down in AAA. Who are we relying on here out of the bullpen when you have to go on a stretch where if there's a game where the Red Sox don't score 10 runs, it's like a 30% chance of winning that ballgame. The Red Sox have to score double-digit runs just for me to feel at least a little bit comfortable. Not even totally. Your ace is pitching last night. The Yankees put up 9. Like I said, I'm not selling my stock, but we have to manage expectations here. I understand we took 3 from most people think one of the best teams in baseball, and they are in their own right. But let's settle it down a little bit. Let's calm the expectations down. The Red Sox still have to play .650 baseball all the way just to even have a shot at making it into the dance and go from there. So let's manage our expectations a little bit. That's all I'm asking. I think the Red Sox are a great team, but the inconsistency and especially the lack of performance from certain guys and in certain times to this point has put them in a position where it's nearly impossible for them to even make it into the dance. You know, there's a certain point where you have to flip the switch from here on out. You can't take 2 steps back. People keep saying, oh, they just have to get in a little run, and every time they feel like they're about to do something great, they took those 2 steps back. No more. You can't do that anymore. It's all forward, pedal to the metal for the next 55 games through the rest of the dog days of summer. And just hope that some of these other teams fall off, because as of right now, even playing .650 ball all the rest of the way through, you don't make it in. There's 2 teams ahead of you. The Indians in Oakland, if they play the same baseball that you do the rest of the way through, it's over. You don't have a shot. It could be over within these next 2 weeks against Cleveland and Tampa. This could be it. Tampa, New York, and then a road set against the Indians the following week. Your season could be over mid-August. Defending World Series champions, we made it to August. It wasn't like in 2013 and 2014 where there was no chance in hell at all. So that's my thoughts. That's my thoughts on the Red Sox. Let's manage our expectations. We can't buy. I don't want Dave Dombrowski to buy. I get that this MO is burned through the entire farm system and leave us with absolutely nothing. Go for it, go for it, go for it, and I respect it. I love the World Series last year. The team was incredible. But what are we doing paying Evaldi $17 million a year when you could have paid Craig Kimbrell $17 million a year? There's been some bad deals made, and now because you've dealt so much of the farm system away, you really can't justify him, and you can't fix the problem either. So the Red Sox are in a tough spot, and what they're going to have to do is play .650 baseball the rest of the way, hope to get a chance to get into that playing game, win the playing game, and then get in the run to go to the World Series. So it's not a matter of just getting in and then getting hot at the right time. They have to get hot now and stay hot from now the end of July, trade deadline, straight through to the beginning of November or late October. August, September, October, you have 3 straight months now of .650, .700, just top-notch baseball. You can't have 2 stinker starts in a row. You can't have nights where the bats just aren't going because the pitching's not reliable. You're going to have to continue to average 6, 7 runs a game, even up that. The best offense in baseball. We're going to even have to up that and bear down even more with our pitching. That's where we're at right now, Red Sox fans. That's my thoughts. So, I'm not saying it's not doable. I'm just saying let's manage our expectations. We have a long road ahead of us, even as well as we performed against the Yankees in this series. And now, we're going to move on to the Patriots preseason. We're going to keep it in New England. And a little more noise than we're usually used to coming out of New England with the Brady contract. The people calling it a dispute. It's not a dispute. We don't know anything. We don't know what's going on. Belichick could easily be saying, hey, Tom, we'll take care of it after the preseason, or we'll take care of it a couple weeks in. We got some stuff to take care of first. We don't know what's going on. You never will in New England. Unless you got nerd reporters like Wickersham coming out and, making up shit. You're never really going to know what's going through Bill's mind, what's going on in New England totally. But what we do know is going on is that Julian Edelman is going to miss a significant chunk of time, I believe was the report. 3 weeks was original, but then significant chunk of time. I don't really consider 3 weeks to be that. But regardless, anything more than just a couple of days right now for Edelman is for me, a significant chunk of time. Listen, you still have a weak receiving core. I get you have N'Keal Harry, but you have Dontrell Inman, Philip Dorsett. You have a weak receiving core as of right now. Maurice Harris. Listen, James White, I guess you can add to that receiving core because he's such a great pass catcher. But still, you have a weaker receiving core. And you replaced Gronk with Lance Kendricks and Matt LaCosse. I'm not saying this. I'm sure there'll be production somewhere from the tight end position, I hope. But it's certainly not going to be Gronk-type production. And these are valuable reps that we're missing with Edelman. Everybody's saying, oh, don't worry about it. Edelman could, miss, he could run routes for Tom in his sleep. I'm not doubting that. But Gronk was a guy who would suck up 2, even 3 defenders at a time out of the pass coverage, which would leave a lot of underneath stuff and a lot of quick slants and a lot of different things to Julian Edelman underneath. They don't have that guy anymore. They don't have Gronk. So now the guy they're going to key on is Julian Edelman. So you're putting a lot of faith in Maurice Harris, Philip Dorsett, Dontrell Inman, N'Keal Harry, a rookie. You're putting a lot of pressure on these guys to put up numbers I don't know if they can put up. And while all that's going on, you don't have a guy like Edelman getting reps, which might be changing. It might not be the same stuff they're going to continue to run. I mean, I'm sure it's going to be all similar within the playbook, but there's going to be some different routes and different connections, some different chemistry they're going to have to build with those receivers, and on top of that, with Edelman now, because a guy like Gronk's not sucking up 2 or 3 defenders at a time. The defense isn't going to be keying on Gronk. The defense is going to be keying on James White and Julian Edelman out of the backfield. And it's going to be bend but don't break style defenses against the Pats, because who knows what they have deep down the field. And who knows what they're going to have in a running game without Gronk blocking. Like, who do we have for blockers as tight ends? I mean, I think these are valuable reps. I think Edelman, it's not a big deal with this thumb injury. I think this is a big deal. Now, apparently the thumb injury is, if there's a break of the thumb that you want to have, this is the one, according to reports. Like I said, we're not going to get much information out of New England. But these are valuable reps, valuable time that Julian Edelman is missing. So, regardless of his connection with Tom Brady, with this young and really unproven receiving core, he needs to be out there. But he can't because he's injured. So, I think it's a bigger problem than many people are trying to make it out to be. And with the Brady contract, even the best coach of all time, the greatest coach of all time, Bill Belichick doesn't know how to handle it. Who does know how to handle a 42-year-old quarterback who wants 3 more years and wants to play till he's 45? And as far as we know, within these 3-4 years, still has your team in prime position to win a Super Bowl. I'm talking about all this receiving core and everything like that, but still, even with a quarterback that's 42, you're still in a prime position to win the AFC Championship. I mean, the Pats are the favorite right now, plus 275. And Tom Brady's going into a walk year. So, here's the way I see it. You have to pay Tom Brady. Listen, when the Titanic goes down, when this dynasty sinks, Belichick's at the helm, and Brady's going to be his first mate. That is the only way this ship is... It's the only way I want this ship sinking. It's going to sink eventually. That iceberg's going to hit. It's going to blow up. The dynasty is going to end. But when it does end, Brady's going to be the first mate, and Belichick's going to be at the helm. He's going to be the captain. When that ship's being scuttled, Brady's your first mate, Belichick's your captain. That's how it's going to go. It's the only way it's happening. So you're not going to franchise tag him. Work something out with him, pay him, and none of this incentive, throw for whatever, because I don't care what incentive you're throwing at him. He's not going to throw for the amount of yards he did with this receiving core. He's not going to do it. Now, of course, there's always the chance that Gronk comes back, as well as Josh Gordon somehow doesn't get suspended, or if he does, however many games it is. But that's not a full season's worth of those guys. That totally limits their production. So I think it's going to be interesting to see what they do with Brady, and between Belichick, Kraft, if they're playing hardball or if it's just a communication thing where they've communicated that they'll take care of it later once they get through the preseason. Now, you're not going to get a lot of information. You're not going to get a lot of vocalness out of New England, out of that camp. It's just not going to happen. You're not going to do it. Now, moving on to the rest of the NFL. We got the A.J. Green injury, which is just weird in its own thing. Practice at Dayton, Ohio, I think Dayton High School, and the field conditions were some of the worst that players had ever seen. I believe the quote from Tyler Boyd was, "Yeah, the turf was terrible," Boyd said via Tyler Dragon of the Cincinnati Enquirer. "I couldn't run any routes out there. I'm falling all over the ground. It was bad. It was rocks, pebbles out there. Man, it was somewhere where we shouldn't have been. I'm not trying to make any excuses, but it is what it is." Now, according to the report, team officials did a site survey beforehand and okayed the field. And according to Zach Taylor, said that we had no issues with the field when we got out there. We just kept it at a limited practice. We were out there for an hour, and the field didn't cause any injuries. We had one guy who fell down, who happened to be A.J. Green, and landed on his ankle funny, and that's the extent of it. But again, like I said, several staffers were worried about it, according to Albert Breer. Several Bengals staffers were concerned about the surface of field at the University of Dayton. They saw it as subpars, and there were mentions of players sliding on the surface. They had the first practice of the season at Dayton as part of the league's 100th year celebration, since Dayton was the home of the league's first game. And it's unclear as to whether the grass had, anything to do with the sprained ankle, which it's more than a sprained ankle. He actually tore a ligament. It's going to be 6 to 8 weeks for A.J. Green, who's going to be 31 in a couple days. Was trying to rework a contract, but had his worst season as a receiver last year, and has missed a lot of games in the last 4 years. I mean, me as a fantasy owner for a couple of those years, yeah, it's unfortunate. And it's been a mess. And I'd be livid if I was the player. And it's really not a good look for a rookie head coach in Zach Taylor. Don't forget, this is him. He's a rookie. He's got a rookie staff there. Young staff, his first year in there. In the first preseason practice of his career. All his studs there, not OTAs, anything like that. First practice. Your top wide receiver goes down, tearing ligaments in his ankle for 6 to 8 weeks because the field was in an underperforming condition. That's not a good look for a franchise that's had not a lot of success recently. Between Vontaze Burfict headbutting people and causing, just incredible shitstorm situations and just underperforming, having a quarterback Andy Dalton who's underperformed, having your first-round pick go down due to injury, the tackle, and now your top receiver goes down because the field conditions were not up to par, and you practice on it anyways. It's not a good look for a rookie head coach. It's not a good start. It's a lot of controversy for Zach Taylor to start off with as a head coach in his career. It's just an all-around, it's a weird situation. I mean, he's a great receiver with, recent health issues, and now this is just another one to add to the list. And who knows, even when he's ready to come back, if he does come back, if he holds out. I mean, you hope they don't rush the guy back, because they're kind of at fault there for his injury. He's got to be livid. He's got to be pissed. Especially when he's trying to renegotiate a contract. They tell him to get out there anyways, even in the field conditions in shitty condition. And he goes out there and comes up for jump ball, selling out for it, doing his thing as the crazy athlete that AJ Green is. And comes down and rolls his ankle and tears ligaments 6 to 8 weeks. So you're Andy Dalton, your middle of the road, underperforming quarterbacks without a star receiver for the beginning of the season and through all of training camp, which then limits the production of Tyler Boyd, the number 2, who you just re-signed to a nice deal because he had a really good season last year. But now they're not going to key on AJ Green. They're going to key on Tyler Boyd, who, when they did that last season, when AJ Green went down with injury, did not perform as well as he had in the beginning of the season. So it definitely creates a incredibly difficult situation for a rookie head coach to deal with. So I want to move on to the NFL odds. While we're talking about the NFL. And we have the AFC and NFC championship game odds. And currently, like I said, the favorite for the AFC is the Pats at plus 275. The Chiefs at plus 350 right at 2. The Browns at plus 400. The Browns who got their first winning season in God knows, I think, 20 plus years. Since Belichick was there, the first season 500 or better. And don't get me wrong, I'm a big Baker Mayfield guy. I like Baker Mayfield. But you have a guy with a loudmouth there in Odell, which you don't really know what you're going to get, especially if, say they start slow. Say they don't start as fast as they want to start. A guy like Odell that, really, you don't know what's going to happen, especially with all the young guys you have that you're trying to build around. How will Odell handle it? How will the team come together in the locker room and handle it? Baker, I think, is a great leader. And he does it in a new way, but he brings up the play of people around him, and that's what matters at the end of the day, especially out of a quarterback. Look at Tom Brady. But a young guy like Baker, how would that feud go between him and Odell? Is there a chemistry? Is there going to be a chemistry issue if there's any struggles? And how good will they be? I mean, there's not a lot of film for teams to watch now. I mean, there's for Baker, but there's a lot of different weapons in there now that Baker has, especially considering I really like David Njoku, probably the best young tight end in the league. But that's some really good odds for a team who really hasn't proven anything. I mean, at all. Plus 400, but third best odds in the AFC. The Cleveland Browns. That is the world we live in today. After 1 year, one good year. So I'll be rooting for them. I think they're must-see TV. I think they're going to be really exciting to watch. I think they have 4 primetime television games this year. And I'll watch all 16 of them. Especially having Red Zone. And I think they'll make the playoffs this year. I'm not sure they make it as a division winner. You still have the Steelers there. With Juju and James Conner. I still think the Steelers are going to be a formidable opponent. But I think the Browns will find a way to sneak in, whether it be 9-7, 10-6 through the wild card or through the division. The Browns will sneak in. But this is before preseason. Like, AJ Green's already blown out his ankle. I don't want to go out there making my predictions now until the end of preseason because, Baker could go out there and, God forbid, tear his ACL or something, and then I look like an absolute schmuck when I'm out here predicting the Browns to go to the AFC Championship game, which I don't think is going to happen anyways, but, that's besides the point. But just with these odds right now, 2 that really caught my eye. Yeah, if you just want to throw a little bit of money at, maybe you can bring something back in. The Jets were at plus 2,200 with Sam Darnold, Le'Veon Bell. It's intriguing. It's intriguing where their odds are. Adam Gase in there as rookie head coach. I mean, certainly I think their odds will, become closer to being more favored in the years to come, as I really think it's going to be a good relationship between Gase and Darnold there. And we'll see how Le'Veon Bell kind of comes into his own after taking that whole year off. But, if you're looking at this, I might even drive it. I'm not a big bettor. I'm not a bettor at all. But I might drive a Tibbert in and throw $50 to the Jets at plus 2,200. What's the worst to go to the Super Bowl? What's the worst that happens? You lose $50, but you can make. I mean, Jesus, you make 1,100. Not a bad deal. And then the other one that I like too is Jimmy Garoppolo coming back from injury. The 49ers are plus 1,600. Pretty full backfield there. I mean, this is a make or break year for Jimmy. Jimmy's going to have to come out and play his ass off, especially after getting paid the contract that he did. And I think he's going to. I think they're going to be a formidable opponent. I think between them, the Seahawks, and the Rams, it's certainly going to be an interesting NFC West. I'm not sure if the Seahawks repeat the success from last year. I think Russell Wilson's probably the top 4 QB in this league. I think he's at 4. I had him above Breeze at 5, and I'm a Saints fan, folks. Which will bring me to my next topic in a little bit. But the 49ers at plus 1,600. I mean, because the NFC's kind of wide open, and the favorites are Saints at plus 400, and I don't even like the Saints that much. And that's coming from a Saints fan. Michael Thomas is still holding out for his contract. Drew Brees is a year older, and this play really horridly dropped off late in the season last year. Mark Ingram's not there anymore to take away some of the load from Alvin Kamara, especially with the fact that Ingram missed the first 4 games of last year, and Kamara, still even after, got a shit ton of touches, taking big hits and catching the ball in the backfield, taking handoffs. He's an incredible athlete, incredible running back, but the amount of touches that Kamara is getting right now is ridiculous. And they don't really have any other receivers outside of Thomas and Kamara. You know, Traquan Smith should really make a bigger impact this year, but if Thomas isn't there, there's nothing. I mean, I don't think he's going to hold out a whole year. I think they should. They will and should. I think Thomas is the best receiver in the NFL. Best route runners, just all-around best receiver in the NFL. And you need to pay the guy, especially with Breeze being the hedge he does. Listen, your window is not that big. Your window is not that big right now, and the production that Drew Brees to Michael Thomas gives you, you need to back up the Brinks truck and unload it for Michael Thomas. You have to do it. Or the Kamara's deal, and you don't do it for Kamara, because in a few years, the amount of usage that you've given Kamara in a few years, he's not going to be worth anything. The amount of touches that Kamara's gotten. So, and you're still going to be without Sheldon Rankins for a little bit due to injury. I mean, the Saints, I don't think are as good as a lot of people think they are. I think the 49ers are going to surprise some people this year in the NFC. I'm not sure about the Bears. I think the Eagles will be back in action. I think Carson Wentz is going to have a very good bounce back year, being totally healthy. Hopefully they can keep on a pitch count, keep him healthy. I still think the Saints will probably win the NFC South, and I think they'll still be a competent team, but I don't know if they're a Super Bowl contender this year. So, if you're thinking of making some early bets here in the NFL season, and you don't want to just, bet on the favorite, you want to make a little small investment to make a lot in return, look at the Jets 49ers Super Bowl. See if the Jets and the 49ers make the Super Bowl. The 49ers can make the Super Bowl with Colin Kaepernick. I think they can make it with Jimmy Garoppolo playing his ass off in a make-or-break year where they're going to trade his ass or drop him if he doesn't perform coming off that ACL injury. But I think he will, and I think Garoppolo's the real deal out there on the West Coast. And I think the 49ers are probably, that's why their odds are better than the Jets. I think they do have the better shot of the two. But I really expect the 49ers to make the playoffs this year. All according to see if Jimmy Garoppolo stays healthy. So that about wraps it up for this episode of the Rufus Rundown video cast. It's going to be on YouTube. I'm going to start sharing it out on social media as well too, just for the more visual aspect of it. Get a logo up there in the top left. I'm going to be more on a consistent schedule, at least once a week with the podcast, some more YouTube and such. FIFA 20 is coming out in September. I'll be all over that. We'll be getting a career mode, and I want to hear from you guys who you guys want me to see, like who I should go with first in the career mode. What teams? I'll have some polls out there on Twitter. Madden 20's out as well that I'm gonna have to be getting into. School will be coming up soon, but I want to get more consistent with the content. I'm gonna be change my availability work just so I have more time with the school year and everything, and still enough time to push out content for you guys. Also, I will be helping out Danny Picard with a new project that he's going to be coming out with, which he'll get more into on his podcast and everything. For me, I'm not going to give away anything, but it's an honor for me to be able to help a guy who is one of the reasons why I do what I do today. The podcast, Danny Picard, is one of my favorites. And just for him to reach out to me, it meant the world to me. So I appreciate just Danny Picard reaching out. Really appreciate it. I'm really excited for that. So you guys will be hearing from Danny from that and from hearing from me about what that project's actually going to be as we get more along moving with it. But that is all the time we have today on the Rufus Rundown. I appreciate you guys. I'll be back at it again next week. Maybe by the end of this week. I'm planning on having some guests in too, so if you want to feature, I already have a couple people lined up. Get me your availability, and we'll see if we can bring you in. But other than that, peace out, guys.